Hey there, it's Crystal. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Hearing His Voice podcast, where I share some of the revelation the Lord is downloading to me through His Word, but also through just our conversations in my handy dandy notebook. I love asking the Lord questions and seeing what He has to say, and most of the time it's something completely surprising. And so it is such an adventure in getting to know God and to know His ways and to know the way that He thinks and how He moves. And it really helps me to position myself in a way that I am right where He needs me to be. So I just this season, there's just been a lot going on in our nation. At the time of this recording, it is November 30th, I want to say, I think. It's the end of 2024 at the time of this recording, and there's just a lot happening. But if you are spiritually minded, hopefully you are not overwhelmed by all of the things that are happening, that you are rooted and grounded in the Word, and you're rooted and grounded in your relationship with Him, that even as things are shifting in the atmosphere, that you are still strong and faithful and hopefully full of joy, even though there is a little bit of turmoil around us after our election, and there are people who have lots of feelings about things that are going on. But I just want to encourage you to stay in your Word, to continue to seek the face of the Lord, because that's where there's safety in the Lord's counsel. And so one of the things that I was asking the Lord about recently, this was probably about a month ago, was, there's a lot of conversation, particularly if you spend any time in prophetic circles. There's a lot of conversation. Even the Word talks about the wealth of the wicked being stored up for the just, and that there is this great wealth transfer that's coming. And right now our president-elect is wanting to make America great again. So there's a lot of conversation around what that looks like. And so the Lord really had to check me, because I think, and not just me, but probably many of us, in our in our wishful thinking, so to speak, we are hoping the Lord is just going to show up at our front door with a box full of money, or we'll get mailbox money, or just some miraculous move of God is going to happen, and things are going to just fall into our laps. And where that the Lord could do that, and He actually has done that for me in times past, but I don't think that that's his normal, right? And so I asked the Lord about things that are coming, and the Lord has told me this on a number of occasions. That I usually will go back and read through my journal and just refresh my memory on what God has told me in the past. And He's like, I have everything. And all you need to do is to tap into what I have. It's just very simple. And I think we, as humans, we overcomplicate things. And so I've just really been asking, Lord, how can I see things the way that you do? How can I know that you are a provider. I'm a giver of my time and my resource. I trust God completely with everything that He's ever given me. But I know that there's a season of increase that's coming to me. But what does that look like? How do I tap into that? And so I asked the Lord, and He's like, people have an awareness problem. They don't have an awareness of what's available to them. I listened to I was at a youth conference a couple months ago, and there was a speaker on the stage who gave this example how she had a key to get to her parents' vacation home in Florida, I believe. And so she and her sister went down there. Well, her dad called on the way and said, "Oh, by mistake, we gave you the wrong key. So you're going to have to get a locksmith to come into the house." So they get to the house, they're calling around, it's the middle of the night. They couldn't get, they finally got a locksmith to come out. It cost them like $500, and they had to pay him in cash. He wouldn't take a credit card. So then they had to go find an ATM and go get $500 in cash, and then come back and meet this shady guy to unlock their parents' door. Well, lo and behold, the sister eventually said, they get in the house, they get rested. Well, the next morning, she said, let me just see. So she pulled the key that her dad had given her and put it in the door, and it unlocked the door. So the entire time She was worried. She was concerned. She spent money on things that she didn't need because she already had the access in her pocket. And when I heard that story, and I know I'm butchering it, but that's the synopsis. The Lord allows us to go through these life lessons to teach us some things, and we can learn from other people. But like, there is access that we have that we don't realize that is in our pocket. And so I was just kind of meditating on that, and the Lord reminded me, and I talked about this gentleman in another video, Myron Golden, who's amazing. You should really look him up. He says that lack of awareness, Myron Golden says that lack of awareness to access is our biggest issue. So we have access that we don't realize that we have. And so I was just kind of sharing that with the Lord. He recently showed me a tool that I actually had on my computer that I didn't know existed, that just really unlocked something for me to take care of something the Lord asked me to do. So this is what his response to my question. My question was, what else do I have access to that I lack awareness of? He said, you have access to everything that I am and everything that I have. You just need to have eyes to see how the kingdom operates. The kingdom is like a seed that is planted and bears fruit. The fruit in the natural may grow on its own, but unless you make the effort to go get it, it rots on the vine. You have to learn how to go and pick your fruit. You have so much waiting for you, but it does you no good to leave it in the field for someone else to have, steal, or for it to die. Fruit doesn't survive year round. You have to pick it in its season. However, what wasn't picked in the past season will sprout again, and there will be another opportunity to reap harvest into your life that was missed in past seasons. But it will take time for it to reach maturity and will be something that your next generations will benefit from. There is no loss in the kingdom, only transference. Once again, the Lord blew my mind. How many times, if we don't live in an agrarian society, most of us, and I'm starting to tap into that because I think it's just important. We need to not be beholden to others to take care of ourselves. And so if I were to plant a garden in my backyard, right, and it's growing, it's beautiful, it's bountiful, and I want to eat, I can't just stand in my kitchen and look at my garden and expect the food to come up out of the ground and to come into my kitchen and cook itself and I can eat it. That just doesn't happen. But I think, unfortunately, for whatever reason, we sort of have this thought that that's how the Lord is going to bless us, with the fruit of our time, the fruit of our labor, the fruit of our sowing and tithing. Like, we just expect for it to show up in our kitchen and cook itself so we can eat it. And that's just not true. Like, if I took the time to plant the seed, I have to go out and actually physically participate in the harvest of the fruit. And I think we miss that in the church. We just expect, God to be this genie that we can rub the lamp and he just magically appears and grants our 3 wishes, like in Aladdin. But that's just not how the Lord works. So the Lord has put principles in place for seed time and harvest, right? There's active participation that we have to have in each of those stages. So we have to actively plant the seed. We actually actively have to put seed in the ground to expect a harvest to come. We then have to water it or fertilize it or wait for the rain to come for that harvest to come. And then when it's harvest time, you have to go get it. But the thing that was just so powerful, because that really was an unlock for me, is that I have to go get it. And so the Lord has told me over and over again that he has so much resource for me, but I have to put myself in position to receive it. And so that is what he's working with me on, is how can I position myself to be under the flow? Right? I can't just expect it to just show up. I have to move myself. I have to move my thinking. I have to move my behavior to be in a position to receive the resource. For instance, if somebody was going to write me a check, right? That paper check does me no good unless I have a bank account to put it in, right? or there's a bank that I can go and cash the check. Like I have to physically be in connection with a bank in order to get those funds. And so, from a practical standpoint, that's the best example I can come up with. But I have to position myself to be able to receive what the Lord is going to be sending in my direction. So, for some of you, it may be, you are desiring to have children in your marriage, right? Maybe right now you're trying to have a baby, or you've always wanted one, but you actually have to do some things to get the baby, right? You have to be willing to put your body in a situation where you can receive a baby. You can't just, there aren't nurseries that you can just go and pick one out at the store, right? There's things that you have to do because babies don't usually just show up on your front doorstep. And so that's just another practical example. For me, I know the Lord has called me into business ownership. And so he's told me a couple of things to do, but I actually have to physically put myself in the position to do that. I have to have the receptacles. So I have to go and, get my trust. I have to go or set up my LLC. I have to pick a name. I have to have like all of those practical steps in order to receive the blessing the Lord wants to give to me. I have to do something to partner with God. God is not a genie. He does everything in partnership, right? So even when it comes down to Adam, when he created Adam, God made the animals, but the animals didn't become what they were until Adam gave them a name. God could have named all the animals, but he waited for Adam to do it. So there's a partnership. God is always looking for how we can come alongside him to do things with him, to do things through him, or for him to do things through us. He's not just going to do it by himself, and he certainly doesn't ask us to just do stuff by ourselves without him. So it is absolutely a partnership. The other thing that was so interesting about what he shared was about the fruit dying, right? So if you don't pick the fruit in your garden, we'll just go with that metaphor, right? You've got a garden in the backyard, you've got tomatoes and greens and flowers and all kinds of stuff. If you don't go pick it, one of your neighbors is going to come around and pick off your vine, or you're going to have some deer, or you're going to have some other critters come in and steal your fruit. But what dies on the vine goes back into the earth. It goes back as nutrients for the next season. And I think that is something that never really occurred to me, that nothing is ever really lost in the kingdom. He specifically said, there is no loss in the kingdom, only transference. And so it's something that goes from one to the next. And so one of the encouragements that I have for you, and one that I'm taking for myself, is that even when the Lord was positioning me to be ready for something and I moved too slowly, delay is the enemy of progress. Okay. Procrastination. If I procrastinated and not doing something he was asking me to do, or not stepping into something because of fear, and not moving forward because I didn't know, or I didn't have the right connections, or whatever the excuse happens to be, the opportunity may pass in that season, but there will be an opportunity for that thing to come around. It may look different. It may smell different, but I will have more wisdom to know to move quickly. And so I'm so grateful for his grace and his mercy to give us another opportunity to get it right, to not miss it. And he's so gracious. And I hope that this has been an encouragement to you to go get your fruit. If you have spent the time with the Lord, you have been following his leading, you've been sowing your time, your energy, your resources, your ideas, your wisdom, there's fruit to be had. So ask the Lord, where is the harvest and how can I go get it? And then get to getting. So thank you for listening. I hope that this has been a blessing to you. I hope that you will like, subscribe, and also share this. If this may be a blessing to somebody that you know, please pass it along. I want to touch as many lives as I can with the revelations that the Lord has given me. He's told me they are not just for me. They are for me, and they are for me to share. So I'm going to do that. Thank you so much for listening and sharing. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.